Good morning, Grace. This is Dr. Jeff. You're not going to like this because all of this is really good. There's some errors in here, but not many. You did fine. But a paragraph is not all encompassing. A paragraph is something that should be able to stand on its own. So it's an idea that you're going to develop into an intro sentence, background, and then finish the best you can with basically like a reiteration, and then you're getting ready to move on to your next topic. So it's like you go over here and you talk about human motivations, a process of realizing one's potential. Well, that's its own paragraph that probably comes before this. So it's a singular motion, and you do have a singular motion, but you stopped and you didn't do it all. Okay? So how generalized anxiety interferes with daily life. That's not an intro sentence. You want a hook for every first sentence. And then you probably should have some authors or something. If you have authors on general anxiety, they do not have to be the same author that you're in, but a lot of times they come right from the articles and they talk about general anxiety. The key words in that sentence are general anxiety. So you probably have 3 articles. You just pick 3 that are talking about general anxiety, and you put the parenthetical at the end of it. What that shows is that you have literature on the subject and you've actually done some work. Blaring. I do discussion boards all the time. And very rarely when you do a discussion board, which is basically a couple paragraphs on certain topics that you're given, if you open with that and you open with authors and you get the citation for the bottom of your discussion board goes off the charts. They're going to read it and not care what's going on. So part of this is discussion board, and part of it is actually writing for papers. But you talked about worry, you see, and that's very good. But I don't know if that came from your mind or it came from the author. If in the annotated bib, if it came from the author, you just leave it alone. You don't have to cite it. But if it's being pulled from other authors, you want those authors to be after the end of the sentence. Or you can say, Johnson 2015 noted that basic ailments, for example, the increase of headaches, sleep disturbance, and depression are all linked to college stress. That came from somebody else. So you can paraphrase that. Okay? So you could say something like college stress are linked to the following ailments. And I don't think it is, I don't know if basic alignments is the right one, or is it ailments? Okay? So if it's ailments, you say college stress, for example, college stress is linked to headaches, sleep disturbance, and depression. The other problem I just noticed is that you just wrote a sentence on worry, but now you're talking about stress, but you never talked about stress. So you should be going through worry, and then stress, then anxiety, and then you can do a simple beginning why statement, the first sentence of the why statement. Okay? And you do it in the idea of, for example, general anxiety does interfere with daily life. It can give you the fact. It can give you. Let me try this again. So if I was going to do a why statement for this to move on to the next one, which basically could be the interventions. Although there are interventions available, some of the ailments that are caused by general anxiety are caused by worry, stress, and anxiety. Okay? So you're talking about basically, I'm trying to put this all in my mind. Your next section could be on the 4 mind and body interventions, but that last sentence in the why talks about the the ailments, okay? But you can generalize the ailments, because if you have worry, you have stress and anxiety, you have all three of those. From your reading, it says stress, but if you think about it, when you're worried, you're stressed, you have anxiety, those are three of the major things that can happen to you, okay? So basically, you need to add in two more sentences, one on stress, one on anxiety, and then come up with like a mini why statement to lead into, let's say we're going to example the one on the right here, the 4 mind-body interventions. You're not doing that. I want one solid paragraph. It should stand on its own. It can be 2 paragraphs. There's nothing wrong with the 2 paragraphs. But if you were going to do the second paragraph in this would follow in this. So it would be general anxiety and fears with daily life. And then you could talk about general anxiety if you were talking about general anxiety. And then you could go into the second paragraph could be the factors of worry, stress, and anxiety. Your next one could be on the mind-body interventions. Now all of a sudden you've got almost a page and a half of paragraphs that kind of could flow really well together. So I know this is a little long, but you have good stuff here. It's just you look at the right and there's like 12 different directions. You've got to really hone it in your paragraphs. So when a professor's reading it or anybody else is reading it, they're getting the gist of what you're talking about there, and it's not going to start here and then just kind of explode out like a bullet coming out in the slow motion where it just kind of explodes out. It should be a straight shot. There should be just little bits of air on either side with little things. So you're hitting a couple things, boom, you're moving on to the next topic. I mean, technically, you could do 1 paragraph on worry, 1 paragraph on stress, and 1 paragraph on anxiety if you have a paper that has a page limit. But anytime you have 3 or more, you want to put them in A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then in this case, you need to explain worry, what worry is, what stress is, what anxiety, using citations from using the author's work or using citations from someone else, and making sure you have the full citation in the back. Okay? So you're on the right track, and I apologize this took so long. I don't know what happened, but it didn't show up, and there's been a couple things that haven't shown up. So we're all good. If you have any questions, feel free to call. If you don't understand this, call. We can get you moving. This is real easy, but it's challenging.